Hi, I'm Mark Wybrow and this is the Electronic Cafe, the channel for the lovers of electronic music.
And I'm Andy McNabb, so let's get started. So welcome to episode 33 of the Electronic Cafe. We really hope you enjoyed the two-part interview we did with the fantastic Colin Wallace. And the next episode after this one will be all about the brilliant Jennifer Touch, who Mark and I had the good fortune to interview just recently. It was absolutely fantastic. Couple of mentions I want to put out to a couple of artists because they're not on vinyl, unfortunately, but I'm absolutely loving Steve Jones and Logan Sky's latest album called European Lovers. Absolutely fantastic. Got a great classic 80s sound, but really fresh. And love the guy's voice. Tones of Nick Cave in it for me. Absolutely brilliant. Also, our good friend Phono Head has a new single out called Fighting Monsters. I'll ask Mark to put a link for that as well up on the screen, so check it out. But in this episode, we look at the very early days and the start of the career of one of Scotland's finest bands, the magnificent Simple Minds. And we catch up on some great new albums, our Hot Stuff section. So look out for that and sit back and enjoy this episode where we look at, as I say, one of the greatest bands to come out of Scotland, Simple Minds. So the roots of Simple Minds are kind of found in that there was a short-lived punk band called Johnny and the Self-Abusers. They were found in the south side of Glasgow in early '77. They played their first gig on Easter Monday, 11th of April of that year at the Doon Castle pub in Glasgow. And they played support to the rising punk stars Generation X in Edinburgh 2 weeks later, so massive transition very quickly. In '77, November, they released their only single, Saints and Sinners, on Chiswick Records, kind of dismissed as being pretty rank and file by the Melody Maker. I think the band split on the same day that the singles release, with two of the bands going on to form a band called the Cuban Heels. And then the remaining members continued together as Simple Minds, naming themselves after the David Bowie lyric from the song Jean Genie. Around '79-80, I was in a nightclub and I Travel came on. I thought, fuck, I love this. Who is it? And literally about 10 minutes later, the DJ played Celebrate. That came on the decks. And then I, of course, discovered it was the same band. So I just dived in and fell in love with all their early stuff from kind of '79 to '84. Many memories of playing the stuff in different stages of my life. But what a band in that period. I mean, coming up with some of the most creative, momentous music that I heard at that part of my life, so between '79 and '84.
As Andy said, Simple Minds originate from Glasgow in Scotland and were formed in 1977. And to date they have had 20 studio albums. They have sold more than 60 million albums. They have had 6 UK #1 albums. They have topped the US charts. They famously played Live Aid in Philadelphia. They have won a number of awards, including an Ivor Novello, a Q Inspiration Award, MTV Awards, and of course Brit Awards. Simple Minds have had numerous lineup changes over their 40-plus year history, but the two founding members and lifelong friends, Jim Kerr and Charlie Burchill, have been constant throughout. And in this episode we concentrate on their first 3 albums, Life in a Day, Reel to Reel Cacophony and Empires and Dance. Life in a Day was Simple Minds' debut album released in spring 1979. Although the album contains the classic early Simple Minds songs Life in a Day and Chelsea Girl, and it was produced by John Leckie, who has been at the helm for some of the UK's greatest albums like the debut Stone Roses album or The Bends by Radiohead, the album failed to set the world alight. This was the pre-fame Simple Minds, which was more of a guitar heavy aggressive post-punk sound compared to what happened later. It has been criticised as being overproduced and a derivative of the Magazine and Roxy Music albums that were around at the same time. I guess like most debut albums, it is the band's live set professionally recorded, but with a lot of big ideas but not quite fully formed. As I say, Life in a Day and Chelsea Girl are two songs alone that make this album worth investigating.
So this was Simple Minds' second release, Real to Real Cacophony. It was a significant departure from the pop tunes of Life in a Day, which Mark just talked about. The album it's got a much darker and more experimental atmosphere, and it kind of really announced some of the band's new wave experimentation that became the sort of trademark for the next two albums as well as this one. Much of it was written in a studio. I think they played a couple of the tracks live beforehand, but there was some proper innovations which the band displayed in this album. There was like sort of some real minimalist structures based around Forbes's and McGee's rhythm sections, and there's some unconventional time signatures in here. The band also experimented with elements of dub and invented kind of wordless and the atmospheric veldt, which they try to create an impression of a African landscape using electronic buzzes and drones. There was Birchall's improvised sax lines, Kerr's chants and cries, and the album also generated the single Changeling, which I just love, and again brings back some incredible memories of some of the clubs I went to at that time. Real to Real Cacophony really caught the attention also of a certain Mr. Peter Gabriel. He selected them to be the opening acts on several dates of his European tour, so you know they were really starting to make a noise now. Mark, talk to us about the next album, buddy.
Empires and Dance is the third Simple Minds album released in September 1980, making it 3 studio albums released in just 18 months. Following the advancement and growth made with their second album, Real to Real Cacophony, Simple Minds were now venturing well beyond their influences that in the past they were criticised for mimicking. The album was influenced by the band's experience touring Europe, and it was more successful than its two predecessors. It again had John Leckie at the helm, and it contains the brilliant songs I Travel, 30 Frames a Second and Celebrate. Empires and Dance was atmospheric, with the brilliant Mick McNeil on keyboards, one of my favourite keyboard players. The album cover typeface was emulated for the cover of the Manic Street Preachers album, The Holy Bible, released in 1994. And Empires and Dance would also be cited as a key influence on the Futurology, the Manic Street Preachers' 12th album, and it remains one of singer and guitarist James Dean Bradfield's favourite records. This was the band's last album for Arista Records before moving on to Virgin, where they achieved much greater commercial success.
The road is long, 7,000 miles, soldier tall, and uniform. We can live, I can live, 7
So, I hope you enjoyed that sort of tour of the first three Simple Minds albums. I think, in summary, they went to release a string of hit singles, becoming probably best known internationally for Don't You Forget About Me, topped the Billboard Top 100 in the US. There's other commercially successful singles, including Glittering Prize, Someone Somewhere in Summertime, The Waterfront, Alive and Kicking, and then the last UK number one they had in '89 with Belfast Child. They've had 6 number one albums, which are Sparkle in the Rain, Once Upon a Time, Live in the City of Lights, Street Fighting Years, Glittering Prize. Sold more than 60 million albums. They were without a doubt the most commercially successful band, Scottish band of the 80s. So, these guys have had an incredibly successful career, rightly so. I was, in the beginning, and still am, a huge fan of Simple Minds. Looking forward to any new material they bring out. We'll certainly be reviewing it on this show. I just want to say, Simple Minds, thank you for being a big musical chapter in my life.
I've got something on my mind. I want you here, I want you now. You'd better explain. Who is it? Who you're running right now? Is it true they're calling you the Chelsea girl? Who is it? Who you're running right now? Is it true they're calling you the Chelsea? Internet to love.
Coming back. What are you doing coming back? Jump! Said you are.
So, welcome to our Hot Stuff section. It's been a while since we've done one of these. I would love to do about 10 albums on this that I've bought recently, but obviously with time and constraints, etc., I'm going to look at 2. And the first one I'm going to look at is by the artist called Lauer, Lauei. He's German. He makes it sound so easy. He's been around for about a couple of decades. His proper name is Philipp Lauer. His work always managed to mix the best of kind of that steely German engineering but with deep emotion, with industrial strength beats on this album. He's based in Frankfurt, and again, his last album I caught because of this one, and that's really good. But this takes it, I think, to a better level. 9 tracks that are stuffed with kind of beat making, delicious 80s influenced songcraft, drawn together by really clever arrangements. I say it's his first album since 2018's Power. All the Lauer hallmarks are here. Flashes of modern house, techno, a few drops of acid, layers of gorgeous synths, and those wistful melodies that recall an era when New Order were trying to help us win the World Cup. I think the album highlights a track called Ghost alongside, there's a frequent vocalist he works with called Jasnau. It's all shouty vocal hooks and bass lines, and Lauer himself says the new record was completed in his brand new studio. And while it's easy for us to imagine wiring all his vintage gear must have been an absolute headache, thankfully the results sound effortless. This is thoroughly recommended. Great album again. I know I keep saying it pretty much in every show lately because the quality of music that's coming out this year is off the charts if you know where to find it, and you find it here. So check this out, let me know what you think. I love it. It's definitely gonna sort of feature, I think we'll talk about this album more in a year, so because I just think it's fantastic. I'd love to get him on the show because I really like his music. So I say this is Lauer, and the album's called Answer to Nothing. Enjoy.
Hot Stuff album choice is Matters by the band Frost, released in 2018. Frost are a Brighton-based collaboration between French-Swedish sound artist Joanna Bramley and Fujii and Miyagi's synth player and producer Steve Lewis. The duo create angular and electronic music by blending krautrock sounding rhythms and hypnotic synthesizers into a neatly wrapped, often bilingual pop. The album veers between songs of a direct conventional structure to a more textured synthy passages. Think of Silver Apples mixed with Noi and with Stereolab and early hints of Goldfrapp chucked in. As an album, Matters presents gorgeous glacial electro-pop, oozing elegance and style, with a touch of the Dusseldorf school chucked in for good measure. Give it a listen and let us know what you think.
You left me down and wandering, leave me behind, don't look back, I'm done, perception, deception, when you have lost control, spindle goes around.
And my second album is from a band who come all the way from Norway. They're called Psychic Arm. And their album's called Octopus. It was brought out in 2018. Their drummer, Martin, reached out and just said he loved our show. So I got a copy of the album, and I have to say it's stunning. There's a mix of inspirations in here. There's a track called Voyage, which has massive undertones of Teen Drum Japan. There's this kind of Roxy Music, Grace Jones vibe. There's a Joy Division vibe in their track called Q&A. And this is all fueled by some amazing bass lines and beats alongside some very cool atmospherics. But despite the polish on the production, you kind of feel that these guys will absolutely smash it live. I hope they come to the UK soon. Martin, thanks so much for reaching out, buddy, and becoming a friend of the Electronic Cafe. Really appreciate it. This is a very good album. I think there's some copies on vinyl available still if you're lucky enough to grab them. They're becoming quite rare though, so get hold of one if you can. Worst case, just download it and have it in your collection. Very, very well recommended.
Return the registration card with all restrictions. I burn on your punches. Return to reflection. Return it to us.
My second Hot Stuff album choice is The Price of Nothing and the Value of Everything by Circuit 3, released in 2019. Circuit 3 are effectively Peter Fitzpatrick, and this album is a stunning mix of synthy electro-pop, all wrapped up in bleeps, beats and electronic ear candy. It is synth pop influenced by the classic 1978 to 1982 era of electro-pop. Classic analog drum beats, arpeggiators, fat synth pads and melody lines under a male vocal with emotive lyrical content that addresses many subjects and takes no prisoners. Circuit 3 draws upon a lot of musical and lyrical influences. Certainly there's Gary Newman in there with the pre and post-apocalyptic lyrics, and certainly the Human League too. But there's also some less overt and possibly unconscious influences like Giorgio Moroder's production of Donna Summer's I Feel Love. Many of these songs sound like they could be lost classics found in the archives of Vince Clarke or the early Human League. Peter Fitzpatrick is a silicon chip superstar. The production is stunning. Martin Ware of the Human League and Heaven 17 said himself that the album sounds great and he's glad that current artists are keeping with the faith of quality songwriting. Go check it out for yourself. Oh, and if you like it, there's a new album too in the pipeline coming very shortly.
So that's it for another episode of the Electronic Cafe. I hope you liked our look at the very early stages of one of Scotland's greatest bands, Simple Minds, the Hot Stuff reviews that we did, that Mark and I put forward. You know, let us know if there's other stuff you're listening to, as I say. And I know some of our Facebook page community has been very active in that front. So if you haven't joined that, log on to Facebook, and Mark and I will welcome you warmly so we can all talk about great music that's out there. The next episode is going to be our Jennifer Touch interview episode. Can't wait for you all to see that. It's going to be amazing. And we've got some major announcements coming on the Electronic Cafe very soon. I literally got confirmation yesterday of one of the greatest producers, DJs that we know. And I can't wait to announce that and get that interview locked in. But he's agreed to do it, just got to sort a date. But I'll let you know more about that nearer the time. But yeah, major coup for me and Mark. Absolutely so excited that we're going to talk to him. Stay safe. I think we're almost there to come out of this damn pandemic. But to all our viewers around the world, take care and keep your ears happy. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks for watching the Electronic Cafe. Please can you help us grow and hit the like button if you enjoyed this episode. Please leave a comment and please subscribe. Thanks. See you next time. Take care.